slow and steady wins the race. Be the turtle. Like fuck flipping, fuck wholesaling, just buy and hold and refi. Like I make more money now in refis than I'll ever make the rest of my life every year. It's so crazy. It's like it's a free tool that keeps growing. So like every single year, majority of my money just comes from cash out refis. So
welcome to the Real Estate Mogul MD podcast. Thanks for tuning in and taking control of your financial future. This is a show where we not only motivate and inspire, we give you actionable real-world experience to help you live life by design. You'll hear journeys and stories from other physicians, investors, coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs. And now, here's your host, Brett Riggins.
Section 8. What does that make you think? Now, I know that there's a lot of negative stigma around this idea. Rental assistance, good or bad, things we can do, things we can't do, what kind of tenant, what kind of process. Well, I tell you what, today's conversation is the one that you want to listen to. Today's guest has been inside the real estate game for more than 20 years. Talk about some experience, the ins, the outs, the good things, the bad things. This is full transparency in this process. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you a warning. There are some explicits inside of this. So if you might want to watch, do not listen to the podcast with young ears. This is full transparency and it is unfiltered. And if you have any questions, if you've ever thought about Section 8 or wondered what it's like or what it is, this is the conversation you want to listen to. Again, this is Elevate with Section 8. Everybody, please welcome James Jones to the show. James, here we are. The time has come. The show is upon us. I am excited. I always love this part because I know what's happening and the listeners don't quite know yet. I've been waiting to talk with you, the man of Section 8, and here in the Midwest. Let's get after it. James, welcome to the show.
I appreciate it. You doing good today?
Oh, man, I'm doing wonderful. I'm excited to have this conversation with you. So for the listeners, I always like to give them just a little bit of background of the guest, where you started and where you're at now. Let us know a little bit about what's going on with James.
All right, cool. So I actually got in real estate back in 2004. So a long time ago, back before it was a lot easier. Started out with, called flipping contracts. Then it became known as wholesaling real estate in the, Sean Terry era. He kind of renamed it and everything. So I did that off and on for about, 10, 15 years, bought a bunch of, rentals, had a lot of holds. Back in 2008, they were giving everybody money. I had a local bank here in Memphis called Union Planners that had this beautiful program, no doc loan. They would just keep giving me loans in my personal name. I was smart, I thought, so I was quick claiming those over to my LLC. But unfortunately, I found out around 2009 that's against the rules. It's a due on sale clause, so I lost about 527 rentals. Once Union Planners was bought out by Regions. So once Regions bought them out, they're looking at the books. They didn't like that, so I lost about 500 rentals. No big deal. Because they're all non-recourse loans. So, they won, I lost. But funny, I still have like 56 of those because the other bank they sold them off to still never came and collect them. So I keep paying the taxes. I haven't paid a mortgage in about, 8-9 years on those, which is great, but it is what it is. So it's kind of funny. Wow. So I did that. Then I started getting back in wholesaling real heavy in 2016. And then when COVID came, a lot of wholesalers kind of, stepped away, but that's when it kind of boomed. So I took my wholesaling business, pretty much across the country, several states, operations from Denver to Miami. Was killing it with RVMs, kind of got in trouble by the good old government. I guess I was doing a lot of, not so friendly marketing, they thought, so no big deal. So I shut that down. And then I got real big and heavy on Section 8 in 2021. My partner found it, and it's just a nice way because it's guaranteed by the government, leverage, and like now it's like on the first of the month, it's like just fuck you money. Money comes in every single month. I ain't got to do nothing no more. It's just residual. It keeps growing. There's so many benefits to it that I didn't know because for years I was always afraid of it. So that's what I'm in right now is real heavy on Section 8.
Wow, lots of stuff there, lots of unpack. The biggest thing on that, having that due on sale clause called, and I guess during that particular time, I think this is one of the few times I've ever witnessed the due on sale being called. And it's such a big tick, man. For you to overcome that, that is massive. and then jump into this other world. And you said RVM. For the listeners out there not into the direct to seller marketing, that ringless voicemail, that frustration of, man, I just tried to answer this. I don't know who this call is, and there's nobody there. What happens is you take two phone lines and you call them at the same time. One picks up or one crosses, and the one that crosses is going to leave the voicemail. It's a recorded message. So there's the ringless voicemail. And you'll watch this in marketing too. There's like these trends, the ringless voicemail, and then the SMS, right? Cold calling, and getting these fines. When you get into litigation scenarios, do not call lists is a big one. We'll run across these these challenges or struggles. So there's another challenge, and the bigger you go, the more problems you had. I've heard it said before, more money, more problems, right, James? And that's kind of like how that trend went, right?
Yeah, I had Stratix, so we were the largest client of theirs. We were probably sending out about 3 million voicemails a day because, like I said, data is really cheap. So I was able to get pretty much everybody in the United States cell phone number for $300. I spent $300 on the data. I was spending $30,000 a month to drop these voicemails. It was great because I was getting tons of leads selling to realtors. It was really good money. Even when we actually went in front of the people in Washington, D.C., they couldn't even verify the voicemail was a voicemail because it was so legit. I was like, hey, my name is James. Oh, shit, stupid dog. I'm so sorry. I almost hit a dog. So they have to listen to that one voicemail. They can't listen to 100 of them. So they couldn't even prove that voicemail was actually a pre-recorded message. So luckily I skipped that bullet. But once I dodged it, I was like, man, forget this. It's just time to get out and be done with it. But yeah, like I said, the marketing trends always, like I said, when I started back in 2004, I was door knocking. Like that door knocking was good. Then around 2007, there was the whole Facebook bandit signs era. Like we used to have bandit signs on Facebook. So it's just crazy how stuff goes and comes back.
Yeah.
But the only thing that ever stayed tried and true is just those Filipino VAs ever since 2004. Like that's the cold calling's only thing that's just, it sucks, but it's the most effective in the long run.
Yeah. And since the Trace Act, has been put into place too. That cold calling is a challenge because you always need processes to basically scrub your data for do not call lists. And there's state do not call, there's national do not calls, and then there's what we call the blacklist, right? The known litigators who set up these interesting little funnels for marketing systems to fall into. So inside of itself, the direct to seller world, marketing direct to seller is a challenge. There's so much risk that goes into it that a lot of people aren't aware of. And then if you have employees, if you have people working for you, most of the time they don't know how risky it is. They don't have skin in the game because this could be, James, we could be talking 2, 3, 5 years later where something pops up and all of a sudden maybe there's a different source of capital or income at that time or revenue, but it's still we're talking tens, 20s, hundreds of thousands of dollars of liability that's put in place when you run this type of marketing. Very interesting. Brings us full circle back to the Section 8 world. There's definitely stigma around this Section 8 world. And me as an investor, I have a colleague of mine that's, he's built his portfolio up to like 40 or 60 units, and he's specifically in the Section 8 world and in an area where Section 8 really wasn't as prevalent. It wasn't a bigger market, but he was focused in on this. And man, I've struggled through the years with rental assistant programs, with just being challenging, being handcuffed in certain scenarios. It felt like as a landlord. But recently getting into the Section 8 world, making those relationships, it's just same thing, right, James? Setting up the processes, the system, building the relationships to make sure that these funds are there and they're coming. And I know the process, right? I know what it's like getting into it. I know what it's like during, the inspections, all of this stuff, and it's there. And you guys have nailed this. Tell us a little bit about some of the I guess, that negative stigma that comes around Section 8. What are some things that you hear like, don't do Section 8?
Yeah. So I have tons of students. And like I said, I used to think the same stuff. They're kind of myths. So like, I always think, Section 8 are going to destroy my properties. The truth is any tenant can destroy your property. So what we do in our screening process, if someone's applying through Section 8, we actually go out to their current residence and do a property inspection, actually see how they're living to make sure that they're not going to be a burdened tenant. And because because like I said, and just like paying bills, any tenant cannot pay their bills. Just because they're on Section 8 doesn't mean they're not going to pay their bills. What we do to lower our risk is we make sure their out of pocket is less than $200, because we understand that, hey, listen, if $200 ain't getting paid, no big deal. On average, I'm making about $500 to $600 cash flow per unit. $200 a drop in the bucket, I'll still cash flow. I ain't got to evict that person. But if you take a Section 8 tenant who's $900 out of pocket, now they don't pay that. That could be an issue for you. So we just make sure that we're picking the right Section 8, tenants. We're very strenuous on our process. We probably deny more Section 8 tenants than anybody, because at the end of the day, it doesn't mean they're not a good tenant. It's just, unfortunately, with our requirements, they're not meeting them, because unfortunately, if they've had past evictions on Section 8, that means there'll be a problem for you. If they have a bunch of domestic violence issues, that means they're going to have domestic violence issues on you. And that's only one of the reasons that a Section 8 can get out of your lease. If there is domestic violence, there's the Women's Act. They can just leave and vamp out. So we try to make sure we're picking the perfect tenant that's going to stay in our unit for years and years to come.
Very interesting. No evictions, no domestic violence in particular. Are you still doing credit check and income proof and criminal background?
The whole 9 yards, yeah. And like I said, the income, we don't count their child support or their food stamp benefits. We just do what they're making. So if they're making, their out of pocket's $200 per month, then at least we able to make $600 to $650 per month to qualify for us. If not, we just deny them.
Right. That makes sense. So you've got these negative stigmas out there, and then overcoming this. Tell us a little bit about the benefits that you see in Section 8. Like, what's the difference between a straight cash payer versus the Section 8 tenant?
Yeah, so last night around like 11 o'clock, I logged on to the portal. MHA sent me about $900,000, which is great. On my retail side of my business, I still have other units like that. I'm still owed $300,000 for the month. And like I said, unfortunately, it's a headache. It's like a full-time job. You have to call and collect. Section 8, no matter what, comes in guarantees. Now, they don't pay on time. They're not going to pay on the 1st. They're not going to pay on the 5th. Usually they'll pay by the 9th and 10th, which is okay. But you'll get that money, and it comes in guaranteed every single month. And it's one, huge chunk, which is nice. It comes in the form of a wire transfer. It hits your account. You're off to the races there. With a lot of retail tenants, we have to straggle, make payment arrangements. I'm in the process of now just trying to get all my units I've had switched over to Section 8. So my goal, hopefully, by I would say the next 2 years, is have not a single retail tenant left, because there's just their headaches. They bitch and cry about fucking $20. They're like, $20 fucking dollars, I can't afford that. Section 8, most of my units are getting bumped up like all these right here is $400 more per year. Like, these are all rental increases this year. We just had 37 units. I increased $400 a month. Why? Because that's the new rent that's Section 8. That's the fair market rent. They understand that. But your retail tenant, unfortunately, they didn't get that raise. They're not the government. They don't just print money. They can't handle a $400 a month raise. So they complain about $20. But I was able to make another, $70,000 per month this year just on rental increases that happen every single year automatically, which is great.
And that rental increase, is there a monthly or annual limit or a monthly limit in which you can increase?
No. So I'll just open one here to look at it. So it's different case by case. Like I said, everyone is different. So like I said, the FMR went up quite a bit this year. So this one here is one I have in Orange Mound. Previously, I was getting $1,304 per month for a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. Now they're giving me $1,875 per month.
Holy cow!
I did nothing to the house.
Right.
And Orange Mound is not even I don't know if you're from Memphis, but Orange Mound is not even a good area. So the fact that I'm getting almost that's the race to the suburbs. Here's another one here. This is in South Memphis. It's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath. I was getting $701. Now I'm getting $1,395.
And did you file a little bit about the process? Did you file for a rent increase then, or how does that work?
A lot of investors don't know that, or a lot of landlords don't know. Every single year you have the recertification period, which is approximately usually 2 months before the lease ends. That means during that time, you have to go ahead and submit your rental increase. If you don't do it, you miss out and you have to wait a whole nother year. So sometimes that doesn't line up with your actual lease date, but you just got to make sure you get in there and do that and get those increases. That's just guaranteed money for you. So if your buddy has 50 doors, that's an extra $15,000 per month or $180 per year he can make just by doing rental increases. It's the easiest thing in the world. And typically they go about $150 on average per year.
So that one that you were saying, around 700 something a month, the process of submitting for an increase, do you know what this SMR, I'm imagining that SMR is the market rent. How do you know what to ask for?
Yeah, it's called FMR. So FMR. Pretty much there's a website that you would go to, and you can put your city, state, no matter where you're in the country. So it's pretty cool. So it's like huduser.gov. And like, I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but like for Memphis this year, from 2003 to 2014, every unit, the 4 bedrooms went up like 400 a unit, and then 4 bedrooms went up like 500 per unit. But once you can't really say it. Once you put your zip code in there, it has all the zip codes by the city, by the county. It shows you what every single zip code's paying, and that way you know where to buy at based on current interest rates being 8%, 9%. You'll be able to still cash flow if you buy correctly based on what Section 8 is paying you.
And then you just, and on that request for a rent increase, you just take it to the FMR. You ask to go to the FMR.
Yeah. And then also I use another trick. It's called renometer. You go there, go and put the address in. You go 1.5 miles out, and you actually can send 3 comps. So what I do to make sure there's no backlash, I said, listen, the FMR is roughly $19.95 for this zip code. I'm going to be nice. I want $18.75. Here's the 3 comps that submit that. Here's the pictures, all that good stuff, and you submit it. If you give all the information to them, it's hard for them to say no because all the data is there.
Are you self-managing your
Yes.
unit?
So if you don't self-manage, you're gonna be sad, depressed, lonely, and probably wind up shooting yourself. Because unfortunately, we tried it, Section 8 with the manager 3 or 4 years when we first got started. It was horrible. It was disastrous. They were fixing everything. And our lease, like we have a lease that we have that's pretty much, we live in a red state here, so it's a landlord-friendly lease, but like we have no maintenance. Like, and we also eliminate maintenance too, so we don't have closet doors, we don't have sprayers. Anything that typically messes up garbage disposal, we remove all that shit. And then anything else that could be an issue, like a backup from grease, all that stuff, it always falls back on the tenant. If we have to send our handyman out there to go ahead and fix it, we have no problem doing that. But then we actually add that to that ledger, and that tenant can never move out until that ledger is fully paid in full. So we have some tenants now that have $6,000, $7,000 balances. Well, if they want to move, they have to bring that up. Best thing about these tenants, they have fucking 9 kids sometimes. We had a lady who had $19,000 that she owed us. She wanted to port to Texas. She filed her taxes. She gave us a check for $19,000 for every single little maintenance request, all the plumbing. It was the craziest shit in the world. I was like, what the hell? Like, I love America. Like, it's the only country you literally can get a check for $24,000 for having 9 kids and then pay your landlord off and move to Texas. Like, it's a great state, great country.
Who pays that ledger off?
She did. So she filed her taxes. She paid the full ledger in full.
Holy smokes.
With her tax money, yeah. And it's all like bullshit charges. Like, we go out there and the filter's dirty, it's a $150 fee. Well, so we have a runner that goes around every 3 months. So also important to have quarterly inspection. So once a quarter, we're going out there, we're spraying bug spray, we're treating for weeds, we're changing the filters out. Anything that we find in there that's going to be an issue that the tenant caused, we notate in ledger, we have our runner fix it. Our runner makes like $17, $18 per hour, but a lot of that stuff is worth like $150. So if you change a toilet seat out, even though it costs you like $17, hey, that's a $150 charge. You're changing a filter, it's a $65 charge. If you're replacing batteries in a smoke detector, it's a $45 charge. Everything's notated in the lease. So on these quarterly inspections, we're just trying to make sure our properties stay up to standard. So we're just going through and fixing these items. And over time, these ledgers keep growing and growing and growing and growing.
Do you ever have any issues where the tenant is a pain in the butt, where they won't basically either one won't communicate with you or won't allow the inspectors in to make sure the property is still in good condition?
Yeah, so our lease, we have to give them 24-hour notice. Plus, like all of our properties, they're on master key. So anytime once we go in there, we have the key to the kingdom. We open it up. We send a text, we send an email. We let them know, hey, listen, your inspection's on this date. We'll be out there. If you're not there, we're entering the property.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. Man, there's so much there. There's so much going on. And that self-management piece is very interesting as well, too, because it's a different thing. Do you know of any property managers out there? I mean, you don't have to name them specifically, that their specialty is Section 8? I mean, I don't know of any.
I haven't found one. One of my other buddies out of Miami, he had about 50 units. He was managing his own units, was doing great. Made a lot of money in crypto, so I had to stop self-managing, turned it over to a local, we'll call them F company here in Memphis, starts with the F, and literally ruined his shit. Within 3 months, he had a great portfolio, but they started just fixing everything because their lease was different than his lease. So they use a different lease. So unfortunately, when you're self-managing, you can use your own lease. You can have them everything. And our lease, it literally states if you call code enforcement or report to MHA anything on us, unless you don't give us time to fix it, 72 hours, that's against your lease. We can evict them immediately. So we're trying to train these people. Well, the new property management company he had, it was crazy. Like he was being hit for $20,000-$30,000 in maintenance fees on 50 units because they were just fixing everything, which is crazy.
Right. That's a challenge, man. Let's get to this. You've got a substantial number of units. Are you specifically in one market with those units?
So right now we're trying to get back to one market. So right now the majority of our doors are in Kingsport, Tennessee. We have several multifamilies out there. St. Louis, several multifamilies out there. Nashville, Tennessee. Then we pretty much got rid of everything in Cleveland. We're out of that market 100%, but we're just trying to be super real heavy in Memphis because it's easier. I live here. Our property manager doesn't even work here. She actually works out of Nashville, but everything can be done remotely. We have an office that no one's ever here, so our whole business is ran virtually. All the tenants pay online. We use Buildium. They're able to go into gas stations and pay cash. So the life is so much easier. So we try to run 100% virtual business no matter anytime I want to. If I need to stop doing what I'm doing, the whole business still runs itself. So that's kind of our key to our success, and it's easier by having all the houses here in Memphis.
So you said Buildium. The tenant can go into a gas station and pay cash? What do you mean by that?
Correct. Yeah. So in Buildium, it's called retail cash. So for like $200 one-time fee, you set it up, and then all your tenants will get a pay code. They can go to Walmart, they can go to Family Dollar, they can go to Walgreens, they can go to over 195 places here in Memphis and just take cash or a credit card to pay their rent. So It's easier. So it makes life easier. So like I have one tenant, like she was a retail, but she was behind. Typically, I don't want to take her credit card, but she went to Walmart. She paid her $2,500 yesterday. I got the cash the next day via ACH transfer, and it's easier for me.
Wow.
Also helps them out.
And you use Buildium as your property management software?
Correct, yeah. It's the best. We tried a bunch of them out there, but Buildium is just more user-friendly for us. A lot of automations in there. We also use Podio with it, too, as well. It's another kind of free software you can get. But then we have like tons of follow-up emails that start once that tenant moves in. Just like right now, the heat, we have emails go out like once a week. Hey, listen, it's going to be hot. Unfortunately, remember, don't call us if it's 80 degrees. If it's 80 degrees at 7 o'clock in the morning, then you can call us. But we just try to make sure we're training these tenants, and we try to make sure as much of our business can be automated as possible.
Yeah, and that property management side, self-managing, that triage call, right? And some preventative triage there as well too. Hey, my light doesn't work. This plug doesn't work. Okay, did you try the breaker? Right. So this simple triage stuff, if you could automate some of that.
So we have a whole video library of 102 videos I created that literally people are idiots. They don't know how to use plungers. It's really sad. Like, this is how you use a plunger. This is how you change a light bulb. This is how you flip a breaker. So if they called into a maintenance issue and reports on the first thing, get back, hey, listen, this is the section you're least. Remember, all maintenance is based on you. Here's the video based on this. It's all automation based on what they type in there. It sends it to them. And typically our videos fix about 90% of the issues. Like, it just walks them through how to fix it themselves.
Interesting. And you mentioned Podio from the real estate world. Podio in the direct-to-seller world was a platform that we used.
Correct.
I did notice that you use a form from Podio for potential or prospective clients. Does that then move into Buildium, or is there an integration between the two?
So the problem is there's not a property management software that specializes in Section 8. So inside Buildium, that's where we keep up with our quarterly inspections. That's where we keep up with our recertification periods, because the recertification is different than the lease. You never want to miss that. So we have several different, I guess you call them apps inside the Podio workspace that helps us run our Section 8 business better to make sure we're not missing out on any of those benefits of having Section 8 tenants.
Interesting.
And plus, I can keep KPIs better. I can see like how many maintenance issue this lady has filed, because like some people just don't understand the process, and I don't want headaches. So if she's filed 16 maintenance issues in the past year, I might just decide not to renew her lease. Like I said, at the end of the day, even if she's 100% Section 8, I don't want headaches. I want tenants I never talk to. So probably about 85% of our tenants we never speak with. We don't talk to them. They're in there, that they're fine. They understand the process. We're trying to get the perfect portfolio, because, like I said, we don't want to be, catering to these headache, tenants.
80-20, Pareto's principle.
Yeah, I live by it.
Works both ways, right? The good and the bad.
Correct.
Very interesting. So that Podio piece, and I also feel that there's a hole out there when we're looking at the property management software when it comes to asset management versus property management.
Correct.
and this gap. And I'm always questioning why, like what in the world's going on? And then well, James, we'll throw this one in there. Then there's another disconnect in the financial piece of it too. So, the reports that you may print from Buildium, I've not used Buildium, I don't know. But the owner statement type things is different than what an accountant would specifically track or trace. So I've got another layer of
Yep.
software when it comes to bookkeeping. For all you programmers and smart people out there, come on, get with it. Link these three together and make this easier, huh?
Yeah, the problem I think is there hasn't been an investor. So it takes someone who's been in the actual business to create the actual software to make it where it's sustainable. Because like I said, I've tried every single out there. There's a bunch of other schmuck gurus that are trying to sell software. I mean, they're just white labeling fucking Appfolio, which is a totally small money. But no matter what, like I've been looking for the perfect software, but unfortunately, you're going to need 4 different softwares. You're going to need like a MailChimp or some kind of email platform to send all your emails out through Buildium. Through Podio. Then you'll need Buildium, which is going to do all your monthly emailers and keep up all your tenant information. They can go in there and pay. You'll need Podio to keep all your back-end office to make sure you don't miss no quarterly inspections. Because it's nice if Podio sends the runner a text, it's a streamline. Then you need QuickBooks to keep up with all your accounting to make sure your books are perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a way possible. And I tell everybody, I'm coming from the construction world, all it takes is time and money. All it takes is time and money. And then in our situation is the relationship, building that relationship, because the person that's going to develop that is not going to be the person that experienced what to develop, just like what you're
Correct.
saying. So that person, their passion, their focus needs to be on development. It's possible, James. I know it is. It's very interesting. Do you on Podio, so you integrate that with like a smartphone or something along the lines?
So we use Vumber. We don't use smartphone per se because it comes up as spam likely a lot. So we use
Yeah.
actually a software called Vumber, which is real nice. All the messages are recorded. It's just easier for us to use that software. But we just use for all of our text to go out there, we just use a platform. It's like 5 cents per text. It's the integration Zapier.
Yeah, yeah.
All
Use
our
a lot of zapmake.com. My new world too, I've been saying this a lot since I heard of it, and I've pumped some money into the development of it. Airtable is a wonderful platform. If you haven't looked at that, it's really cool. So it's like the user friendly of programming.
Yeah, I try to use Airtable when I started doing my acquisition AI or whatever, but then Airtable was just I like Zapier because Zapier I can really take the time to make whatever I want to make out. Airtable is great for like simple things, but if you want something super complicated to do like 7 different things, so I needed to go through, listen to the whole AI script, pull out certain things, and then put it in Podio. I couldn't get Airtable to figure out that, but through Zap, I was able to do it with a ChatGPT integration. I had to integrate ChatGPT with the Zap, and then I was able to get it to be beautiful.
So for us, the Airtable is a platform, and then we use Zap and Make.com as well too to do all of these different things.
Right.
But yeah, it's super cool, and there's so much more to come. You have all of this stuff put together. Where can the listeners find you, learn more from you, learn about the Section 8 world that you have built this foundation in?
Yes, they can follow me on Instagram, James Jones REI. I give a lot of free tips out there. I just kind of show you the actual truth of being an investor. Like I don't show all my shiny shit. I actually show you what I do versus the shiny shit. So if you're looking for someone that actually shows you what it's like to be an investor, the ups and downs, the good, the bad. If your house gets shot up, robbed, kicked, if one of your tenants get murdered, if you want to see the truth, I'll show you the truth. If you want to see all the shiny stuff, that's not me.
Yeah, right. So on the Instagram, follow you. And I want to throw out the elevatecoachingrei.com as well too. Because are you still coaching others? You mentioned that you had some students. Is that still something that you're doing?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, we do that too as well. I just don't ever try to pitch anything. But yeah, we do have a platform out there. So if anybody's interested, we kind of walk you through the whole process of actually becoming a Section 8 landlord. You actually get to fly out to come to Memphis, spend a day with us. We actually take you around, show you what a multi-million-dollar operation looks like, all the kind of hurdles, let you meet contractors. We actually walk you through live tenants' properties. Everything is just kind of under the hood, like all the questions you want to ask. We do that for like 5 hours. We come back to the office for like a 3-hour mastermind, kind of map out. A lot of our students that do that usually have a high net worth, usually already making, $600,000 plus per year. and want to kind of get out of that rat race. So a lot of these guys are either lawyers or dentists that, started their life and was happy, but now they just kind of hate the life they're in. And we help them kind of escape that rat race. And typically about, 12 to 18 months, the average student usually has 20 plus stores, and they're able to get rid of that, 7 to 3 nightmare or midnight shift, whatever the hell they're going through.
Yeah. Very cool. So we've got that, man. I thank you for your time. Last leaving question here. If you could go back 15 years and you were set beside somebody that maybe had the same goals or passions that you have, but you have this experience now, you go back and you set beside somebody else, not yourself, what would you tell that person 15 years ago?
Slow and steady wins the race. Be the turtle. Like, fuck flipping, fuck wholesaling, just buy and hold and refi. Like, I make more money now in refis than I'll ever make the rest of my life every year. It's so crazy. It's like it's a free tool. It keeps growing. So like every single year, majority of my money just comes from cash out refis. So in the past, I always thought like, 6%, like 3%, I always get the best interest rates, but I shouldn't worry about that because my tenants pay all the debt. As long as I'm able to pull out $30,000-$40,000 a house every few years, that's all I should care about. So like I said, I just, so many deals I wholesaled, I wish I would have kept now. So many deals I flipped, I should have kept in Nashville. I mean, I'd be a lot more well off than I am now. Because at the end of the day, I was thinking, $10,000-$20,000 was great, but I never knew like the whole refi process, how the whole Burr method worked. Till I was like almost 35. So like for 10 years I was just fucking making other people rich versus making myself rich. I had great wholesaling businesses, but even like deals I had in Miami Gardens, I would have kept all those because these houses don't appreciated. Most of these things have doubled in value. I could have been pulling out all this tax-free money on these refis.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Low and slow. That is the tempo. I think that's the Beastie Boys saying there. That's the same way too. And when I look back to James, I think in that regard, that capital, whether it was paying to learn, the tuition, or some people call it the DAT tax. Sometimes that money was needed to pump through our systems to keep our businesses going, to keep our education rolling. So there is good. I think that we're always here in this spot for a reason, and keep focused on growing and working with what you have and sharing with those around you. I think that's great. James, thank you so much for your time, man.
Yeah, no problem.
Awesome. To the listeners out there again today, thank you for your time. And as I always say, your attention. The attention piece is specifically of great importance, and that's where I'm grateful for. Thank you for your attention today. If you have any questions about Section 8, don't hesitate to reach out to James. There's some great stuff on the social media as well as the elevatecoachingrei.com. You can connect with him. Until next time, this is Real Estate Mogul, MD.